Yes, everyone. Hello, and thank you very, very much for joining us today as we celebrate Greek Ancestry's 4-year anniversary. It is really with your interest, your trust, and support that we managed to get to this point now. And this is why I wanted to do something special to celebrate this day with you. Honestly, 4 years ago, when I clicked launch in my apartment in Rotterdam, the Netherlands, when we launched the Greek Ancestry website, I would have never imagined, how fast things would evolve in the next few years. So I feel really blessed and thankful. Today, I'm not going to lecture about all different types of Greek genealogy records or what information each type of record contains, nor am I going to share research tips. In other words, today I'm not going to talk about what I usually talk about. Instead, I would like to show you some less known aspects of what we do every day at Greek Ancestry, like the material that we work with on a daily basis, as well as some new fascinating projects that we're working on right now. So first of all, for those of you who don't know, we now work from our brand new office in the heart of Athens. The address is Botasi 9. It's really downtown. And back in May 2023, we held our office's grand opening. And I was really glad to see many of you attending in person. So that was really, really nice. So in our office, we have, part of our staff working there. We take clients there, like visits and all that stuff. We do some of our digitization work, and we have our library there. So talking about digitizations and stuff, um, as you already know, we deal with archival collections every day, right? Of course, we visit archival repositories to conduct research, but we also find, digitize, and index archival material of genealogical interest. Right now, Greek Ancestry's database hosts 12 different types of historical records from all over Greece. And we're talking about over 1.5 million records, amounting to over 3 million names. So that's pretty good. And with our upgraded search engine, which we like to call Zeus Power Search, searching on the website has become way easier because we have developed the best algorithm, to recognize Greek names. So even if you spell a name in the wrong way, the algorithm will still find it. Now, right now, there are 3 collections that we are really proud of. First is the refugee records that were digitized at the General State Archives in Athens 2 years ago. So that's about 1 million names of Greek refugees from all over Asia Minor in Turkey. These are the lists of refugees who left Asia Minor with a population exchange agreement of January 1923, and they came to Greece as refugees, and the Greek state reimbursed them for the property or reimbursed them for the property they had left behind. So this collection, this register, includes all the names of the refugees who received compensation. A very important collection, especially as long as there are no other or very few records concerning the Greeks of Asia Minor. So that's pretty neat. Second, the military lists. I really like those. We released them in 2023. They are a very rare type of record. They can tell you when and where an ancestor, a male ancestor, served. in the army. The really good thing is that this information you cannot find it elsewhere. And in many cases, this collection fills the gaps in areas for which we don't have many other types of records available. So it is a very important collection. And thirdly, I would like to talk about the business directories. It is not the first time that I talk about them, but I find them really interesting. And also, it is a collection, a pretty extensive collection, that we constantly update with new records. So every now and then, we will add another business directory for another area, another year. I would like to focus on this collection, the business directories, for a moment. Usually, when we talk about business directories, all we think of is long lists of names, addresses, and occupations. And the truth is that this is really what business directories are, but there is one more aspect to them that we have not really explored yet. And I have not explored this either, but it is something that we, come across every day at the office as we study the business directories. And it always gets our attention and interest, but it really requires, time to produce something really interesting. So business directories, apart from the lists, they also contain dozens and maybe hundreds of business advertisements. On this slide here, you can see advertisements for soap, Uzo, barbers, pharmacists, this tailor down on the left, this naval agency, or gramophones, or another Uzo, or a school here where I am. This is a school. So really, really, interesting businesses or professions. And these advertisements are not just nice to look at, they also introduce you to the aesthetics of a whole different era, a whole different society. And they allow you to visualize how Greece was like 100 years ago or more. And of course, they can give you lots of information about your businessmen or businesswomen ancestors. The address of the shop or the office that they had, the products or the services that they offered, and then, maybe when the business started or anything that they considered fit to include in an advertisement. We've seen advertisements about fields, some big landowners just saying, I have plenty of fields. Advertisements of lawyers, some really cool advertisements from Castoria, dated 1901, where the tailor says, I have the best fabrics in town, or the elites of the city come to me and I, make their dresses and stuff. So pretty interesting information that adds to the historical context. Now, you know that we travel for research all the time, right? We go everywhere. There is an archival repository where we can spend hours and hours doing genealogy research, what we love to do, right? Only in 2023, we visited archives all over in Chania, Chios, Corfu, Athens, Patras, Sparta, Tripoli, Kalamata, Kozani, Livadia, many places. So yes, we go to the archives, we go to the libraries, we go to the town halls, cemeteries sometimes, and we search, and search through any type of record that can help. And I've said this before, my favorite is notarial records, especially when we discover a will or a dowry contract. Those include amazing information about family, the house, the property, everything they owned. But there is another kind of research trip that we do not often talk about. And I have to admit that we really don't advertise that either. That is traveling for research together with a client, not just for a client, together. And I have to say, we do this only for select clients and select cases. In order to travel for research with someone, you need to be on the same page, right? You both need to enjoy and appreciate research and don't mind spending days and days searching for information. What is really fascinating about research trips is that you never know what you will find and what you will experience. It may be little or it may be huge. Here you see Velha Mountain, Vellia, Velha, which is located in Siatista in Macedonia, the prefecture of Kozani. So this is where a client's grandfather and his family had their flocks before emigrating to the States. They were shepherds, right? And they would take their flocks up in the mountains, to graze. And to take the client there, to be there with them, to see those mountains and their nature, the plants, to breathe that air and to see the village far away in the distance. All that really adds to the family history research experience. And as I say, genealogy is more than discovering the names, the dates. It's about history. It's about our ancestors' life experiences. So going up there was really, it wasn't, the traditional research that we do, but it was still research, historical research, in a different way. So more of Siatista. With this client, we have visited Siatista twice in the summer of 2022 and 2023. By the way, summer in Siatista is not like Greek summer at all. It's like rainy and cloudy, but still nice. So during both trips, we managed to identify living relatives and talk with them, exchange information, photographs, gifts. But by far, I would say that the real highlight was this particular house. This is the client's grandparents' house. It was built with the hope that they would return from the States to Greece, but they never did. So the house was passed to another family member, and eventually it was sold to a different family, not related. So what is really cool is that we went there and we found the current owners. We visited the house, we took pictures, and guess what? One day before we were about to leave the village, the current owners contacted us. They were looking for us in Siatista, so they found us on the phone, and they said, "Come back to the house. There is something we want to give you." So we go to the house with my client, and they gave us something that they found as they were renovating the house a couple of years ago. The old door lock, like the original door lock that the client's grandparents had used. So that was the client was in tears. Of course, they were in tears as well. We took those really cool photographs. The one is dated 1931. The client had it. And then we took another one of the house, 2023. So that was a really moving moment for, the researcher and the client. And I think At some point, I will have to do a separate webinar just for this research trip because and all all the things we found and did there. We went down a trapdoor and saw the family's cellar where they had, their barrels with wine or tsipuro, and they also had some sewing machines, and they had some equipment and tools and all that stuff. So pretty cool. Or we found in one of the houses, we found a 100-year-old family photo that they gave us, and the client took it with her, and many, many, many other family items. Even um, um, the family had this grocery store downtown in Seattle. So we found a book where they had all their expenses or products that they would sell to people. So eventually we made a list of all the products sold at the shop, and we now have a very good picture of what that shop looked like, what it smelled like. So very, very interesting stuff in research trips. Um, Now, let me tell you about some new projects that we have been working on for a while. So, apart from digitizing records, building the database, conducting research for clients, translating all documents, offering free consultations, or going on research trips, we also take up pro bono projects as long as they are genealogically and historically relevant and valuable. So one day, two friends, Mary LaViolette and Dina Palamides, they brought three boxes to the office, the Greek Ancestry office. And what did the boxes include? They include old, very, very old records from their village, Karitena, which is in Arcadia, centrally in the Peloponnese. And those records, they were really valuable, really interesting. Tons of contracts dating back to the 1840s, mail registers, municipal registers. Many of you already know how hard it is to find municipal register records, or copies of church books. Again, old church books. So amazing material that they themselves or their families had gathered, taken care of, and thought important to preserve. So, this collection came to the office and we immediately got to work. We were very enthusiastic about it. We did what an archivist does. So we sorted the collection because it was sort of in a mess, so we had to sort it out. We had to create descriptions of all the archival materials included. We digitized, we transcribed, we translated, and finally we put all the documents as you see them in the photos, we put them in special archival folders. So eventually that collection will be donated to the archives in Arcadia so that anybody who is interested can access. And they will also be available online, both on Greek Ancestry and on Mary's and Dina's website, which is currently being built. At some point, they will be invited to talk more about this project and what they envision. Um, and this pro bono project, it costed nothing to anyone. So we didn't charge anything, and the archives will just receive this collection for free, and they will be able to preserve it as well. Another project that we just completed was the publication of the war diary of Pantelis Karatasakis. Pantelis was born in 1898 in Nymphasia, in Arcadia again, and he was a soldier in the Asia Minor campaign. The Asia Minor campaign started in 1919 and ended in 1922 with Greece's defeat. Now, Pantelis' son, Alec, shared the diary with us, and together we created a great little book, the one that you see in the slide, So what we did was we had to read the original diary, okay, which was in Greek cursive. So we read the diary, we transcribed it in Greek, we then translated in English. And when you see it, you will see that we have the Greek and English versions opposite of each other so that, as you read it, you can follow the natural flow of the diary. And then we also added, comments and an extensive introduction and prologue. So let me read to you what Alec wrote in his prologue about the diary and about his father. Who was my father? A great patriot, per the obituary that a friend of his published in Infasia. That was always my impression of him. I never thought of him as a sentimentalist. However, apparently, buried inside him, back in his early years, on the verge of adolescence and adulthood, deep emotions filled my father's soul, particularly evident in his poems, which are found throughout the diary. It is not only his passionate political views that are vividly presented in the poems, but also the hardships and losses of war, the loneliness and fear that my father experienced during the campaign. Apart from his political views, neither the struggles of war nor the emotional impact were ever discussed at home. This diary, once a forgotten object in my father's dresser, has become a precious window into his past and unspoken feelings. My decision to publish it is driven not only by my desire to preserve my father's memory, but also by the hope that it will be a valuable legacy for my children and our family. Just as my father treasured his father's watch, I am now passing down his diary. And who knows, perhaps in the future, my descendants will find value in preserving some piece of my own life. Here are some images of the original diary. By the way, all the pages of the diary, we have added them to the book. So the book now includes the transcription, translation, comments, introduction, and all the images of the diary. And it really is a unique publication that allows us to better understand the political and social atmosphere of Greece back at the beginning of the 20th century. We will certainly host a special webinar to discuss about this because there is really a lot to discuss. How Padelis narrated the war, or all his wonderful, sentimental, and occasionally humorous poems, his love for King Constantine and his hatred towards Eleftherios Venizelos, the Greek prime minister. So yes, I do promise a special webinar about this. For those of you who are interested, the book is already available for sale on lulu.com, and there are ebook and print versions for lower cost. And if you prefer not to wait for a print version, I definitely recommend the ebook. But this was really a great project, and I loved working on it, and my team loved working on it too. It's an ordinary soldier's view of what was going on during the campaign, including his sometimes some ignorance, misinformation, whatever. But it really is interesting, and I have never seen something like this before. And also, I found it really, moving the fact that his son, Alec, wanted to share this piece to make it, available to everyone. He wants to, donate copies to libraries in Arcadia, the War Museum in Greece. So at some point, he will have to talk about this all. But again, it was a really great project. We just finished working on it. Like it was released last week. And now it is time for the big announcement of today. It has been a while since I was doing my COVID genealogy webinars, like during the pandemic. And since we sponsored the two international online conferences, which were really successful. So Carol Kostakos-Petranik and Georgia Stryker-Killman and we were thinking, what we could do now to discuss and share what we love most, Greek genealogy. So what we decided to do is to start a Greek genealogy and family history bi-weekly vidcast. Vidcast is like podcast, but with video. I didn't know that, I learned. So this vidcast will be broadcasted on this YouTube channel. And the three of us, along with guests, we will be discussing all things Greek genealogy as real geeks that we are, right? So, from different types of records to research tips, research trips, Greek archives, libraries, books, DNA, AI, and anything you can imagine. The agenda for the first group of vidcasts will be shared with you soon on Greek Ancestry website and the Hellenic Genealogy Geek blog and Facebook pages. And we kindly ask you to please share topics of interest with us. So go ahead and start writing in the YouTube chat things that would be that you would be interested in discussing or in learning or sharing with us. Um, so yes, we will start taking ideas in the YouTube chat. And with this, we have come to the end of this little webinar, or the first part of it, to celebrate Greek Ancestry's 4-year anniversary. Let's wish to another productive year with lots of Greek genealogy discoveries. And to help you with your own discoveries, we have just released this discount coupon giving you 25% off any genealogy records you order on the Greek Ancestry website, valid through February 1st. So go ahead and start searching again. And now the floor is yours. We are going to start a Q&A session. You may ask your questions in the YouTube chat, and I will answer as many questions as I can for the next 30 minutes. So I'm looking forward to your questions and comments. I see there are already some questions. Um, So Alexandra is asking how to trace the roots of our Anatolian Greek ancestors. So this collection of refugee records that I mentioned before, this is what you need. So you go on the website, you search, you select Turkey in the search engine, and you'll start searching. If you find a name of a family member, we will be able at a later stage, like through archival research, we might be able to find compensation documents. So a list of what your ancestor owned back in Asia Minor and what the Greek state thought good to compensate the refugee for. Those lists are really, really interesting because, they will say like that they had this field here or that house or 5 cows or, 3 horses or a sewing machine, whatever the family owned. In some cases, you even see um, furniture listed, grains, anything they produced, and didn't have time to sell at the time of the catastrophe. So very interesting information. I got a question about the names of the people on my team. So right now at the office, there are 3 people apart from me. There is Sophia, who does indexing and also she's more occupied with all the town hall research and archives, as well as some social media. Then we have Maro, who is um, she does indexing as well, plus research and some little history introductions for clients. And then we have a new member, Lilian, who is she again indexing. Everybody does indexing for records. I do too. So she does indexing, and she's also involved in our adoption file digitization. Sorry, digitization. So she contributes to that as well. So the title of the diary of the soldier in the Asia Minor campaign, the title is Pantelis Karatasakis, Diary of a Soldier in the Asia Minor Campaign. You can go on lulu.com and find it there, but you can also find links on Greek Ancestry's Facebook page, on our latest newsletter. So yeah, and we will be posting about it regularly, so don't worry. I got a question about the techniques I use to decipher the written cursive. Wasn't easy. Was was pretty difficult. It was not just reading the document, which I'm familiar with. The biggest challenge was to transcribe exactly what you read. That was really hard because, that guy, Padelis, he was born in, a mountainous area in Arcadia. He went to school and he was, educated, but there are so many typos in his diary, so many grammar, syntax errors. So I had to transcribe the errors, and that was the biggest challenge. Then, fortunately, the condition of the diary, and those of you who order it, you will see it in the images at the end. The condition was good, relatively good. So that was uh, that was not really difficult to read. Um, a question about archived records of aid during or after war or fires in certain areas like Smyrna or Thessaloniki. Um, so for Smyrna, we have the refugee records that I talked about before, but specifically about um, fires like aid for special circumstances. Um, there's not much. There is material for Thessaloniki after the fires there, the fire of 1917, if I'm not mistaken. But those records concern mostly the Jewish community, which was mostly affected by the fire of 1917. Um, for more, we would have to look into the local archives of Thessaloniki. I got a question about mail registers in the Caritana collection. Were they different than the ones I've seen from the GAC? And there's a comment. I was surprised to learn there are different versions. There are different versions, at least three. Um, Also, mail registers were created both for the community and for the municipality, which are different administrational units. And in many cases, you see mail registers which are revised or updated versions of older mail register records. There are many versions. The ones we saw, we did not get one copy. We got two or three, and they were different. They covered different years, they covered different areas, community versus municipality. And there were also some typos or spelling variations, errors, which require, experience. You need to know what the real name is, in order to be able to correct the wrong version of the mail register. The issue of privacy for Greek records. Yep, we will Greek talk with Carol and Georgia. We will have to definitely we will have to talk about this. It is a real nightmare, even for researchers, even for people in Greece. The problem is like to address this real quick, the problem is that there is no real central archival policy or privacy policy. So any clerk can give you different, requirements. They might allow you or not to access a particular collection. There is a general misunderstanding about personal data. In many cases, you will not be allowed to like take photos of a 1920 voter list as if it contains any personal data relevant today. So it is a very important topic, and we will have to thank you for pointing this out. We'll have to give it a proper discussion at some point. Um, my ancestors left Asia Minor much earlier than most, around 1914. How would I research why they left? Family stories were that they fled during the war, but this seems much earlier. Good question. 1919, 1922, we have the Greek-Turkish War, right? Okay. And the catastrophe in the end, and then 1923, the population exchange. But the population exchange pertained not only to the refugees coming from Asia Minor to Greece after 1922, but also those who came already since 1914. Why? Because in 1914, all the Ottoman Empire joined the Central Powers in World War One, and under German instructions, they started persecuting Greeks, especially on the west coast of Asia Minor, so the coast where Smyrna is, right? And there is a very well-known episode of that. It's the sacking of Foggia, which was a coastal town where they attacked, the Turks attacked, and they killed many people, and the population of all those villages started fleeing. Most of them went to the islands of the Eastern Aegean, so Chios, Samos, Lesbos. Some ended up in Thessaloniki or in Crete. Um, it is a very interesting story. We do have records for those as well. It's part of the same collection. And in some cases, we might be able to find even more information about the specifically about the refugees who left 1914. Now, the Greek army arrived in Asia Minor in 1919, and at that point, many of those who had fled before, they returned to their homelands, only to leave once again in 1922, 1923 with a catastrophe. Um, a question about how to get birth and marriage records. Not easy. In some cases, these records do not. So if you're interested in citizenship, you should know that there are no birth and marriage records in Greece before 1925. That's the general rule, but even in those cases where there is something, it's not accepted as an official state document. So marriages, births, and deaths before 1925 were not generally not recorded by the state. Yeah, send me an email so we can see, if this is an exception or if we're talking about a later year or something. There was a question about records in La Kithra on the island of Kefalonia. There are all the civil vital records of that village, as well as other villages of Kefalonia, and we will be soon releasing a very, very, very big Kefalonia collection on our website. So just hold on that, and you'll be happy soon enough. I have emailed Kalamata several times in Greek and English and never received a response. What do I do? What do I do? I even have their birth registry numbers. I'm at loss as to what to do. Town halls are not good at responding. Um, honestly, just send us an email and we will discuss this in detail. There are specific offices that are just unwilling to help. Sparta is one of them. They are very unhelpful. Well, there are others that are extremely helpful, and the same rules do not seem to apply. So yeah, just let us know, and we will try to help you. My great grandfather arrived in America in 1849, so I'm not sure what records are available that far back in La Quizá and Kefalonia. There might be, there might be records. So if you're in a hurry, text me. If not, soon there will be a big collection to release for Kefalonia. Would one be able to obtain church records in person in Chios? Would they be available by a late 1800s? Perhaps, although in general, local church books start in the 1910s in most cases. We could still give it a shot, and yeah, we do travel for research, so that is an option. I see that many of you are making suggestions for future sessions, so I really appreciate that. And we will try to include as much as possible in webinars in the future, but also in the Greek talk that we will launch with Carol and Georgia. I'm waiting for more questions, if any. Refugee records from Smyrna, Asia Minor. Would this include the people that left for Egypt? Depending on when they left for Egypt, um, it could include them as well, depending on when they left. We are also preparing something for Egypt, though, something special for Egypt. So make sure you keep tuned. You stay tuned. Um, so if they left before 1923 and went to Egypt, perhaps there is not something there. If they left from Asia Minor and settled in Greece first and then went to Egypt, perhaps there is something. You know, in many of you, as we work together, you find out that it really depends on the case, on the area, on the time frame, the time period. So, you know, the records that we might be able to find for this particular case, you know, Greeks in Egypt, originally from Asia Minor, we might not be able to find in another case. So, unfortunately, in Greek genealogy, you cannot really be certain that you will find something because in most cases, very little is available, unfortunately. Other specific references regarding migration patterns in Greece, 1819, 1920, explaining historical reasons. Are you talking about domestic migration in Greece or emigration from Greece, let's say, to the States? If the latter, there is plenty of material. Um, there was not huge domestic migration in Greece in the time period you're mentioning, at least not as far as I'm concerned. The big migration started, domestic migration started after the 1920s as the city centers, the cities started growing based on population moves from the countryside. And that was especially the case in the 40s, the 50s, 60s, 70s. That is when most Greeks left the villages and went to Athens, Thessaloniki, or you know the other cities, the urban centers. Are there military records available or general information to get an idea of their military service? Yes. I was talking about the military lists earlier. So there is material. Again, it really depends on the case, area, time period. when the ancestor was born, when he served. So there is a lot to take into account here. In general, yes. Also, we do have lists of all the soldiers killed in all Greek wars, um, let's say from the 1860s through the 1940s. So including World War One, the Asia Minor campaign, including World War Two, including the Balkan Wars. So we have all that. Let's see, there are any other questions? I'm giving it a couple of minutes before we call it a day. How can you tell if an American birth might have been registered in Greece? I know my grandfather was born in the US, yet his marriage record gives his father's village, born 1901 in Massachusetts. Um, if talking about 1901, I can guarantee there's no birth record in Greece, unfortunately. Um, sometimes marriage records concerning Greek immigrants, they would mention the immigrant's place of origin instead of their real place of birth. But if he was born 1901, there won't be a record in Greece, unfortunately. 1925 is when the state officially started to record births, marriages, and deaths, and that does not necessarily apply to Greeks born abroad, unfortunately. If I have a national service record that he served 1927, would you be able to find details on that? Perhaps, perhaps just, it really depends on the case. Just send me an email with, as much information as you have, and I'll get back to you with research, with our research options. Can you search the business directories by business type, like photographers in a certain area? What about steamship advertisements? That's a pretty good question. Um, we do not give that option on our website because, so what we do on our website is we allow you to search for free, and we give some information like given name, surname, place, type of record, and the year this record was created, okay? Or that the ancestor was born. It really depends on the type of record. Um, but we do not give the rest of the information online because we need to have some revenue to to do more things and expand. But on our end, this is some research we can do. So if someone is interested in, let's say, all photographers in 1930s Sparta, okay, we can do that pretty easily. We can just make a list of all the photographers or all the grocery stores or of all the tailors, lawyers, doctors, whatever. Do church records have birth records? Yes. So church records, there are two types of church records. There are the marriage records held at the metropolis, the corresponding metropolis, the diocese, and then there are the village church books. The village church books include births, marriages, and deaths. Most of them started in the 1910s, but if you're asking about Kefalonia, I saw who was asking, if you're asking about Kefalonia, in many cases, they go way, way back, even the 1700s. So it really depends on the village, and we can easily find out, what's available and what condition and what can we can learn from it. Would metropolises or churches hold information such as wills and dowries, or do they typically just hold baptisms, marriages, and deaths? Correct. The metropolises and churches do not do notarial keeping, Um, so yes, you won't find that there. In some cases, rarely, when you have a marriage license document, sometimes there are attachments to that. So, when we were digitizing in Sparta, the Metropolis records, we did find some dowries, but those were exceptions. You cannot count on church records for this type of information you're looking. This type of information, notarial records, notarial information, you can find it either at the local corresponding General State Archive GAC office or a local notary. But if you end up with a local notary, good luck. It's not necessarily going to work. I would like to inform you that Carol has posted links to the Greek document locator, parts 1 and 2. This is a very good file that Carol and Georgia have created, where you can see, what type of information is included in what type of record and where you can find that online or not. So be sure to check that out. This webinar, it is going to be saved on and recorded on Greek Ancestry's YouTube channel. So right after we hang up tonight in Greece, everybody will be able to review the webinar or watch it if they didn't manage to. I don't see any other questions, so let's call it a day. Again, I'm really, really grateful for all the support and trust and love that you've showed in the past 4 years as I'm running Greek Ancestry. And I'm very hopeful that we will continue to be very productive together. We will discover family history and genealogy. You can reach us, Greek Ancestry, through our website, through our social media. We are active on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, the website, so you know where to find us. Also, every week we offer free consultations, 30 minutes, where you can discuss directly with me, what concerns you in your research, what you need help with, anything we can help you with. So everyone, stay well, Kalinita, and thank you again for everything you've done to allow us to get this far.